life, not because of any merit, but according to the grace as Jesus, faithful and worthy to his service. We believe that we are by vocation, Christ Jesus set the gospel of God. Considering, we believe that the key of this world is strong, so that it would not rest on the weak, but on the power of to each one, God's manifestation of the for the common good. We believe that we must live a life worthy of the calling which we have received. Humility, meekness, seeking to bring things towards him. We believe that work together for those who love God, according to his decree. We believe whose power now can do immeasurably more than we ask or we believe has begun the good work, carry it through to the day of Christ Jesus. Because he who called us, St. Paul, pray in the name of the Holy Spirit. Afternoon. Leadership is about making better as a result of presence and making sure that the impact of presence in your absence. Share together this afternoon book Heroic Best Practices 50 years that changed the world. Welcome in a particular all those who online in different I would like to pass Rosemary Maiwa, our delegate superior, that she will come and open this fund of the launching.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is my pleasure to you all on the behalf of the and the Pauline's Publication Africa to launch the book Heroic Best Practices, 50-year-old company, the world. Felt greeting and a very warm welcome and joining us online platforms. This book,
I think you must press unmute.
this book, Heroic Leadership, highlights the role of leadership in promoting good, and especially late Mr. Chris, an author, and helping us the scope of this book, the African edition. Your expertise, Mr. Chris, opinion leader, is truly valuable. Our founder, Blessed James, beautifully articulated the significance with intellectuals. Let the gospel always find a place in the heart. The gospel is something divine. After all, it speaks to the minds of everyone, can satisfy own demands of every age. Intellectuals, we are fishing not with but with a net. Mr. Chris, achievement. I would like to extend our gratitude to Akima, particularly to Pharaoh, for their dedication to the book, a manual guide to ethical leadership in the proposed university. Rajiv, the CEO of Prime Bank, and has honored us with his presence. We feel blessed to have him as a collaborator in supporting our policy. Lastly, I welcome our neighbors who have during this book launch. Today's readers, I hope you find it to be a rewarding book to read. God bless you all as we have this together. Thank you.
Are heroic.
Recording stopped.
Will the respect teams and will sacrifice to serve themselves. At this, we will our author, that is, gentleman, chairs the board of Common Spirit, America's largest health system. More than 150,000 a one-time Jesuit seminary, and later he served as managing of JP Morgan on the 3 continents. He is a speaker in more than 2 dozen countries on leadership, business ethics, and other topics. He is the author of 6 books. Has co-authored the best leadership translated into 11 languages. Was named to be list to the list of the Commandant Marine Corps. Also contributes to Forbes. Leadership and languages. In philanthropy and social have included an innovative collaboration to offer online university in refugee camps and elsewhere. He also co-founded Effective Leaders in Action, emerging leader formation now active in dozen cities. Pilgrim our children's future supports education amongst civilized marginalized communities. Us on quality leader in a rapid world. Inside a better society to in his book A Leadership. Please welcome, and you have the floor.
Okay, thank you, Olga, and good afternoon. And sisters in the back who are working, so we welcome the friends from Malawi, and you can hear me okay, and my picture? Okay, good. I will talk for about 1/2. Worry, it will not be 1 hour. And before I do, I first came into the room, red, white, and blue everywhere. You know that this is the color of the flag. So when I'm coming in, I'm thinking, oh, all the trouble the system to this place. But then I look, the colors of Pauline Media also are red, white, and blue. Me, they're celebrating themselves. Huh? But I thank the sisters for their collaboration, and Sister Praxidis is not here. Thank her because we had a collaboration under a lot of time pressure. Was a great collaborator, and Sister now. So thank you very much. Now, let's begin. Who are leaders? Leaders. Before maybe we could stop for a few seconds and please think of the names, 1 or 2 living people you consider to. And please also about the qualities or the attributes or the characteristics consider to be a good leader. Let's just, and why don't you turn to one neighbor side and say, oh, this is the name I'm thinking of of a good leader. I'll just give you 30 seconds. There's no right or wrong answer. It's maybe to move. Even this best. Friends, come back together again. Holding the microphone not for you, but for Capuchin TV. So I guess it's okay. Okay, so who are leaders? Very interesting names. People are thinking about maybe Pope Francis. Oh, look, they're thinking of Pope Francis. Novices, so they're very holy, huh? Maybe the president of some country or some. I wonder, thinking about their own name. I guess nobody. Or if you think of your own name, probably person, and say me. You know, he says Pope Francis, I say, oh, me. We're in a culture us to be modest people. Many people are Christians, and Jesus talks about every 30 verses in the gospel. Huh? Modesty is essential, and exercise humility in our life. When it comes to the idea of leadership, your modesty is some, because we all have a broken stereotype about what leadership. So when I say most of us, we think people on earth, super famous, super rich, and so on. And about leadership, it's not the solution to any. Not in the country of Kenya, not in the daughters, not in my own country. And suggest that if we understand properly, we will understand we must also think about ourselves a word like leadership. Do to motivate the people, next part of the experiment, and wonderful ideas for the character. Most groups, people are thinking of things like, oh, to be honest, to have, to listen to other people, to care for the common good. I wonder if any idea great credentials. He said this: love those you lead before leader. David was not a priest, not a sister. The person I just quoted was a military general, the top military general in the United States. And at first, this love those you lead seemed very coming from a military person. being tough, and so on. I think about it, girls make better choices if they love the difficulty. So, the general think about leadership in a very interesting way, because even though he's a profession, I'm a general, tell you what to do, just the same way as Sister says, she tells you what to do. Is about giving, being very tough, being followers. Instead, the general says, lead. And a quality, a behavior, a way. And this that I will justify that we must all think about ourselves the word leadership. Because the names of leaders, we're mostly thinking of very famous people. But when you started sharing the, I guess that all mention is an that everybody in this room model tomorrow. Courageous, to have empathy for other people, and so on and so on. So if you think about the qualities of leaders, it becomes, oh, these qualities are not just for super famous, but I also show leadership. And in fact, definitions of the word leadership to point way, direction, or goal is toward it. And that all of us are doing these words. We're not holding a sign, go this way, but all day by our how we treat other people, the value, whether we're lazy or work hard, somehow we're implicitly our behavior. Like, this is the way you. And some of us have influence. Sister is the provincial, is projecting influence on a lot of people, and is here, but she is also having people. If that's Sister Anastasia, she's the she also. But even though you like formal position for all the other sisters, you are pointing out a way every day on the other sisters, the other novices. Who is charitable, who is one that helps in, one that doesn't, who's the one that's serious belief, who's the one who's not so much. They're behaving this way, we're somehow, and we're having some influence on the people, small or large. Some of the people in this room are parents, and all of us have parents. An obvious example of pointing away, influencing others, than what parents in a lifetime. So good parenting, and say that definition to point out a way, interesting, meaningful idea of this room who are professed novices for religious, because life, I guess, that you believe is about is So I'm a follower, but of Jesus, which is leading. Our behavior, we're role modeling behavior. So all of us, those especially who have a Christian, we could say we're following always, all the time. And even it uses words vocation and disciple. Some of you are discerning your vocation. The word voco means in Latin, if you call, you come. Somehow. But the daughter and everybody who is a religious also has, and the means exactly the opposite. Missio, it means I send. Following, you're going, you're leading. You could understand the paradox for those who feel a Christian calling, that somehow we're called and to lead all day. Nobody gets to choose. It's not like, yes, I'm a Christian, but only disciple. No mission for me. Now, though all of us are leading, most of us do so subconsciously. When we played this, you thought of yourselves as leaders. And that in order to do a good in our calling to lead, the first thing we do is to become a little more explicit, a little more words to say, oh my gosh, and my calling me a leadership opportunity and every day. And how am I? In other words, to think, or when I hear about the word leadership, with Pope Francis, he does not. Instead, when we talk, we also must think, yeah, this has something to do with not if I become provincial of Pauline publication. Now, whatever is my role, whether I'm sister, helper, worker in friends in Prime Bank, teacher in, and so this is my that you think, oh yeah, I too have some leadership, and how am I showing my daily life, in my family, in my Prime Bank, in my religious community, whatever it is that I'm doing. Now, we'll understand what part of our own leadership statement in the, and I guess Daughters of St. Paul, you have your own role model as part of your calling, so that's leadership. And I want to talk about, let's see, I'll talk about 3 qualities or values you might role model in your lives to somehow be heroic and to be self-aware. Let's see, I talk about 2 or 3 of those depending on. So first, the idea of heroic. And when I say heroic, which is part of the, I'm not talking about in the sense of something like this building is on fire, side and save all the people. Okay, that. But for most of us, life is kind of opportunity. So I mean a much way of the idea of heroism. The essence really of the idea is that could we be people able to care primarily my ego, how important I am, how my feelings, that other people are admiring. We not be people who are focused more, but that we're somehow also able to defend ourselves and to care about us. And of course, tradition, like the Christian one, and what I'm saying as somehow for the core idea that we would understand I'm not here on earth to fulfill my, rather somehow to help fulfill God's plan for. Now, I just said it in a kind of, let me also say it in what we might call a business way, because we have many friends who are, and how could they also understand? And let me tell you one little story, the idea, and a few remember from reading history books that States and Russia, Soviet, early 1960s, were racing the moon first. Yeah? And the United States made a tour project, I guess to boost their morale. And at some he is going janitor, somebody who's just cleaning up, sweeping the floor of an office. And I guess to be polite, he introduced, hi, nice to meet you. And and the person says to him, I'm putting a man on the moon. His job maybe is sweeping the floor. Understands his sense of mission is something much bigger than himself. In something bigger than himself. And I can tell you, teams in many organizations, good, in the terrible ones, showing up for work every day, thinking, in the good ones, every thinking, okay, what's the mission of this place? How am I successful? And so on. First idea I might out as we all reflect on leadership in my life. Are we people who are somehow heroic? Are we living and working bigger than our own ego? Here's another idea. Could we be now are loving in our work? For those of you who are religious, for those of us who are business people, because I promise you, I did not walk the hallways of JP Morgan hugging and telling them I love them. And that the team at Prime Bank start walking and they love each other. But anyway, the Jesuits, in his constitutions, said love ought to manifest itself not in words. What kind of deeds could show the impact of in any kind of setting, in business? Well, we have kind of strange about the word love. You know, it's okay for cream. I could say to my friends, oh, I love this food. I probably should not say to the people, I love you. So of the word love is sometimes confused, but if we philosophers like Aristotle, Thomas Aquinas, nice definition of love that's very useful, whether we're religious, business people, whatever. To love means to want the good. In other words, person. It means for this person to be able to rise to their, to flourish, and so on. And so somebody who's a manager, even though he's not going to walk around saying to colleagues, oh, I love you, I love you. Think about his job in this way. Love by making sure is able to perform at their best. So this one, maybe she does her job well. So I need more coaching. This one, but she has real self-confidence problems. So I need to support her, build up her confidence. A lot of talent, but very lazy. Very tough and strict with her all the time. And even though I'm talking in a way, I guess those can also understand, oh yeah, this also talks about loving. So this guy is standing up there, a kind of a everyday organizational way in which we our commandment that Jesus gives. Understand the point I'm making? In order to understand what I might call of leadership or a spirituality. In other words, if those who are in the Catholic tradition, they in the tabernacle. But I want to also understand, gee, when I go to work, publishing business, a teacher, the banking, how can I also bring my to all these day-to-day tasks I have there? Two qualities of leadership: heroic, to be loving. It's about a third quality, which is to be more self-aware. The things I've said so far, they all require us to how we think about our life, how we how we're doing, what are my values, how should we treat of these kinds of topics. And these are all awareness topics. So, leader, we also need to have some practices to make us self-aware, to step from this crazy world every day and take stock of how things are going, but also very important, how things are us. And tradition, you have very self-awareness. So those of you together every day, and of course this exercise, that's why you're doing it. Somehow it's a self-awareness exercise. You're stepping away from the crazy and trying to perceive what's going on. And in the nice little what I will call technology, it's spiritual. The word technology means know-how, knowing how. So a nice little technology that in as little as 3-4. So, after lunch, I have minutes free, or at the end of before I'm going to bed. Let me just do 2 or 3 little. 1, why am I grateful as a person? Spiritual tradition tells us we should be grateful. Us live our whole lives thinking, what do I have to do now? What's a problem? So during this little moment when I step back, first, why am I grateful? Lift my horizon. Horizon, I mean this, that whole day with our horizon, what comes next? What I'm standing here thinking to myself, okay, am I speaking loud enough for the microphone? Okay, for this camera here. Let me just lift my horizon and imagine a bird looking down on my own life from very. Instead, say to myself, okay, well, why am I here on earth? Or why am I following this vocation with my life? Mission of Prime Bank, and what am I contributing? And then third, mentally go back through and revisit and the people I was with, the problems and try to take some little lesson. Hours. So the novices, and at lunchtime I do. Now I think, oh man, I was really a sister novice all morning. It wasn't her problem. Something's bothering me. I was distracted all morning. Just this, and in the live the way I want to live. Even go to this person and say, oh gee, I'm sorry. I was nasty to you in the morning. And I think of this very simple practice, obvious when we think about the all now living. We're kind of on a river of email, meeting, social media. I get to the end of the day, I've been completely present. The random distraction that. On the other hand, what are the things that ultimately are what's going on inside me in a deep way? What is my relationship with the Creator as I understand that? We're just under 30. So now let me just summarize a little program. Do we have time for a little question or discussion? Certainly raise any they wish. But let me just summarize. So my number one message, which I hope you all is, okay, when we use a word like leadership, we have to think not only about I also have to think about what way am I pointing my life, my role modeling. That's the most important idea. I gave you 3 little or ways of thinking that you might your own leadership life statement. Be a person who's heroic, who's for my own selfish, but also for purpose bigger than me. Second, could I be a person who's loving? People around me in a way that I'm to be their best and achieve their potential. Third, can I be a self always, every day, be stepping back for a few minutes. My life, how things are going, what's going well. And for those, of course, in a religious vocation, we might also think, well, how was God present to me in the people I met, and so on. That we have to find God in all things. So if we're at Mass or in the chapel, but God is also people I'm encountering, even the ones that are annoying me a problem, maybe especially those ones. And so, how was God in the last few hours? Now, will say his own comments. So just for 30 seconds, say to you that I came to Kenya this time, including I met my wife in Kenya. The story. This time I'm coming at the invitation who have a very interesting, exciting project to develop the Akima University. It will be here with campuses in Nairobi and Molo of East Africa, and it will be in some ways teaching some of the leadership values I shared. Some of you at some point even will end teachers there. Finish, and let me thank all of you and our friends in Capuchin TV on the Zoom line in Malawi. And let me wish all of you the as you show your own leadership and heroism and love and self-awareness, own family, to your community, to all those around you.
Thank you very much. Indeed, everyone has and the responsibility. The person can lead. How am I showing my leadership skills? We are deeply for the mission and the results, with a daily habit of to take stock. It requires courage. And these are some of the great leaders as you have. Now, we invite Domaro. He will address us on the role of Akima University in promoting ethical leadership. Father Odomaro Mubaz is a Jesuit from Uganda, the province of East Africa. Professor at the university and has a doctorate in ethics from Boston College. Has taught African philosophy, political philosophy at a university, and has published on globalization, philosophy, environment, and ethics. He is a member of the Executive Committee of the Institute of Indigenous Knowledge. So, currently, Director and the Director of Academic Affairs at the proposed University. Welcome, Father Odom, to address us about the role of Akima University in promoting leadership.
Good afternoon to you all. It is with great to be able to share with you today, this afternoon. I want to begin with a disclaimer. Pauline has kind of embarrassed me. Such a glowing introduction. And a bit contradictory to our Jesuit charism. Very humble. So when I hear these accomplishments, I feel a little. However, whatever we achieve, and the grace from God, we are here to be nourished on the and this world is the framework. I'll have the few reflections I will give. In my presentation, a few illustrations, a few notes to drive the point home. With a bit of yesterday, as we were planning to come launch of this excellent book, we knew that today in the town, which you all know, we consulted a bit. Physical meeting today at the point. Both me and Chris were too quickly. So we said, let us wait. We might get some clue. Or if that fails, and if all fails, we have just an discussion. And share, and also Chris as a non-resident. We spent a night praying. Let the Lord. Early morning, we hadn't decided. Sister Pauline, and we said, decide whether we should come. And we both decided that we should heroic leadership and this book. Can you give a round of applause of heroism? I was worried that would the priests be afraid to attend a physical launch of a program like this. So I begin with this story. It encapsulates the elements and the principles of leadership that one, in a very volatile, predictable, complex, ambiguous world. Now, all could tell a week ago a month would look like. And therefore, one of the key qualities of leadership that is even leadership is the ability to adapt to circumstances, to changing times. No leader today can be able to predict, and therefore, within the unpredictability, the volatility in which we live, what we the principles or a kind of tool, and surprising that in fact these principles are rooted in technical management skills, political philosophy and theory, not in economic, but in spirituality. Almost as a surprise, who are involved in corporate leadership, bank, you know too well that there are certain economics and in the politics and management for proper functioning of institutions. We do make a mistake when we to technical, mechanical rules. After all, leadership is a product of how human interact, and even most they feel deep down. In the training has been conducting, we invited him last year to address us on this topic of heroic leadership. We had about 3 groups: community, from the health sector, religious leaders, men and women. Trainings in the 3 kind of more. The overriding concern and understanding that we are all leaders and there is nobody over leadership. Leadership is a gift or get and acquire and develop. And what was very intriguing in those in the participation we had, if we had had enough working in smaller groups, asking you a question, to believe that we are living in a rapidly changing world. Put up our hands. What are we are living in a changing and complex world? Technology, social media, and Gen Z generation in mobilizing themselves and putting out, just as we know, like the Poland is using traditional media to pass on the. And therefore, through this, we have learned some very messages that we would like to pass across to you. I will very briefly talk about the book. Say, when you are reviewing a book, don't make it too detailed because they will not buy it. But also, don't make it too brief what the book is about. So you will kind of whet your appetite about the that we have that has a very intriguing title. This is from a full company that changed the world. This is a rhetorical technique. You will be to find out what is this company that operation for over 450 years and has beyond imagination. The secret is, I will that you look forward to buy the book. Whatever it is, was founded by a human being, and he talk about qualities visionary, qualities of while leading, and I recall when we were back the one, I want to disclose that I belong to who are the generation shortly. I came across a small book, How Communicating Ideas, and in it principles, and one was a leader who have their feet on the ground in the clouds. Humility. And second principle, that a leader is who forms leaders while he's leading. And what the founder of this company did, known and tested by the third, that a leader management. And finally, we always to an uncertain future to lead the team, almost an unknown. And therefore, this book goes into great detail to explain how, as throughout time, consistently, in principles of resilience, Japan, Africa, Europe, and I'm sure you have heard of stories who took the faith to India. Theo Ritchie, who went, but using the company that we read about in this book, Heroic Leadership. What are the core values of this company? Some Chris has mentioned: self-awareness. What are we feeling inside? When we were deliberating whether to come today, we felt a mixture of emotions: fear, anxiety, courage, determination. And we decided that fear will not lead us for today. We opted that we should be led by courage and also trust and hope. And this is what we did. However, the other principles in leadership are discernment. To reflect. When you are making a decision, you go through a very complicated, tedious process of how to decide what to do. And this is what the three of us went through and said, what shall we do? And after that decision, you are told to check back. How do you feel? Do you feel peace? Do you feel a certain kind of ease? Do you feel confident? And only after feeling that they had some confidence and peace in our minds and hearts did we decide that we shall today come and launch this book physically. That tool, that sacred weapon, which Chris has called a kind of spiritual technology, you cannot find it in any technical books and manuals on leadership. The other skills we will find out in the book, and therefore I will quickly explain briefly how the proposed Akima University is supposed to be a living embodiment, an institution that is going to take us into this new style, new paradigm of leadership. Some of you, or most of you, know about Akima University College, which has been part of the Catholic University as a constituent college for over 40 years, training men and women, but largely training Jesuits who have become superiors, heads of institutions. And the time has come that we should move to the next level and set up an institution of higher learning, a full-fledged university that will take up these values we are talking about today to the next level. And therefore, we also carried out some kind of exercise. What are we going to teach to the people who will come to the doors of this university? First, we discovered that there are so many institutions and universities across Kenya and Eastern Africa. However, the graduates, as soon as they come out, they are moving all over the streets with their CVs in their hands for 2, 3, 4 years, looking for employment. And therefore, we came to a conclusion that our educational system is clearly dysfunctional. You cannot spend 4 years in school, 6 years, and when you come out, the resources you spent, you cannot get employment. And so we started with a vision that you want to form men and women who can spur greater transformation, ethical leaders who are capable of creating jobs, not job seekers. And that is our mission and vision. And therefore, we settled for 4 schools. First, we shall teach business, innovation, and social entrepreneurship. And therefore, within the people we shall interact with will be bankers, business communities, industry, so that we train people to be able to lift our people out of poverty. And we believe that this is not a threat, but is a promise. We plan to develop a curriculum that imparts practical skills. Second, we shall also embrace technology, because as we heard, the world we live in is complex. You hear the media. We need to know how to develop in the 21st century, the 4th industrial revolution. So the school Under that framework will be the School of Data Science. Some of who are young, you hear about coding, you hear about artificial intelligence, you hear about ChatGPT, that you can sit in the comfort of your room and study. We have participants online who are following us wherever they are, in Malawi, in Kampala, in India, in Japan, in China. The methods of teaching and learning have radically changed from the time of COVID. The next school, of course, shall be education science, because this is a foundation for technology and innovation. The traditional courses of chemistry, physics, biology, mathematics will be incorporated in the university so that people can lay foundation for further studies in the last school, which will be the School of Mechatronics Engineering. Again, this is to help people get skills to enter and work into the fourth industrial revolution and promote society and help the young men and women in our society. That if we don't educate them, we don't give them enough skills, we should not be surprised if the energy they have, they put it into promoting programs and activities that might in fact legitimately disrupt the very system which we are convinced has led, first of all, to the challenges they are facing. With these few words, I wish to conclude that we are following this very call to heroic leadership, and that leadership, of course, must be shown in education, must be shown in the church, must be shown in the civil society, must be shown in our families, in our communities, because as we have heard, everybody is a leader. So turn to your neighbor and say, you are a leader. You are a leader. You are a leader. Can you say it again? You are a leader. You are a leader. And now we have made a covenant with one another that we shall henceforth not be pointing fingers at who the leaders are, because if they fail, the three fingers are pointing at each of us that we have collectively failed to lead. Leadership is a corporate venture, and therefore, this is, I think, the message we are passing on, young and old. Regardless of which generation you belong to, we are all born to lead. And so, I wish to express my deep gratitude for the opportunity to be able to share these few words to you. And I make an appeal that Chris Launde has accepted. Next year, he will be back in this country to give us more training, to deepen the training. And we shall make more arrangements, collaborating with Prime Bank, with the Poor Lines, and with the Capuchin TV, that we shall set up a much more robust training on leadership so that we truly become leaders the way we have accepted. And I think we should give a round of applause to him to make sure he doesn't change his mind next year. Thank you so much. And I will also want us to put our hands together. Thanks, Sister Pauline Olga, who organized this at a very short time amidst the fears and uncertainty. A round of applause, Sister, so much. And of course, Sister Rosemary, the regional speaker, and the leader par excellence, for her humility and leadership, take up the courage to come and welcome us here. Thank you very much, Sister. And of course, finally, we have got to thank all of you who have participated in this, those online, the Capuchin TV, and the Prime Bank, who also came at short notice, that you have shown leadership in responding to this call. A round of applause for you. Thank you very much, and may God bless you. Till we meet next year. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Father Odomaru, for these words of wisdom that you have addressed us. We are really living the fourth industrial revolution. And leadership today is corporate, and it requires a new paradigm shift. Now, at this juncture, we ask of all of you that you are here to raise the questions that you are. And also encourage all those that are following us online, they can drop the questions on their chat box. Thank you. Any question? Or comment. Yes.
Performing their duties well. And there's some leaders who at the beginning they will participate well, they will behave well, they will lead the people well, but in between they change their mind and then they end up misleading the people that are following them. So how can we help them to become better? Thank you.
Okay, great question. Maybe you're thinking of your own country, but also I could be thinking of my country, you know. And experience in JP Morgan as a kind of an illustration. So you know that one of the political thinkers told us power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. In other words, as you get power, it becomes very difficult for a human being to continue to resolve to use power correctly for the right means and not for themselves. And let me tell you, you know, in my JP Morgan life, so I worked in a big American bank, and one of the things I notice as the years go by, there's more opportunity to get money. There's some people who are, you know, in every company is like a pyramid. In the beginning, everybody's in the same level. Then some people go higher. There's not enough room for everybody. Some people go higher again. There's not enough room for everybody. So there's a level of ambition and greed in these companies. And I was formed as a Jesuit, as you know. So maybe I thought, oh, okay, well, you know, this kind of thing will never affect me because I have a good formation. But the human animal is a very strange animal. And ambition and greed and competition and fear, these are not good things for the human animal. And so, sister, my thought, I don't have a beautiful philosophical solution to your question, but what I want to say is, I think for all of us, power, careerism, these chances to go ahead are kind of dangerous. We can do very good things, but unless we understand carefully who we are and what we are doing and what we believe in, we somehow easily go astray. And I think you see this story in every business. You can see this story in every business. You see it in countries. I don't find any part of society immune from it. And the one thing I would say to connect it to the comments I made is, remember I recommended to you that every day you do your little mental pit stop. You think about, step back from the world and think about, okay, what's going on inside me? What's going on outside? And this is one of the antidotes, one of the ways I think that we can cope with the natural human temptations to go astray because of greed, power hunger, ego, all these things that corrupt us. If we stop every day and think about, oh, what's going on, maybe we can catch ourselves before we go too far down the wrong track. You want to say anything, any of you, about this question? Do you want to add anything?
Maybe very briefly, this is a very pertinent question, and we all feel implicated because, as you know, not most leaders go to learn leadership in school. They end up with the positions only to discover that really they lack the skills necessary. So that's the first observation. Secondly, it is also possible that people in the heat maybe of wanting to be elected, they can overpromise, and when they enter into position, they discover things are quite different, not as simple as they had thought. And so that is a very important question again, that while trying to be leaders, it's very important to be self-aware and notice that there is much you can do, and then when you enter into the system, to find ways, strategies to bring everybody on board and say, this I cannot do, this can do this, and there is a lot of talent always that can help. A leader is not supposed to be doing each and everything in a leadership setting. The people who are led also have skills that they can bring to the leadership framework, and I think that's what leadership is about, to recognize leadership in the others who can contribute. Thank you.
Yes, we have a question from the chat that says like this: What are Chris' thoughts on Gen Zs who say they are leaderless, tribeless, and so on? What are your thoughts, Chris?
Okay, so I can't imagine what you are possibly talking about. Okay, so look, this is this is also a very relevant question, because we're talking about leadership and this is happening right now. So it's a very relevant question, and it's a good question. But at the same time, and as an American, I find it arrogant when people come to visit the United States and tell me what's wrong with the United States and how to fix it, And so, therefore, I don't want to pretend to be arrogant. I'm just a guest here. I don't know the details of the situation, and then to say, oh, this is what's happening and blah, blah, blah. Huh? But having said that, maybe I could, since we're here thinking all of us together about leadership, maybe I could give like a lens, like an eyeglass lens, a way of looking at and thinking about and maybe analyzing for all of you what's happening here. So one of the definitions of leadership that I often use in seminars, I'm going to mention it to you and then think about this Gen Z situation in the language of this definition. That it's this: leadership is the art of influencing and directing people in such a way that will win their respect, confidence, and cooperation toward common objectives. So, for me, the questions in terms of how you all make sense of what's going on right now is, here would be one, that I find this phrase that leadership has something to do with winning the respect, confidence, and cooperation of others. And so one question I might bring, or you might bring, to your analysis of what's happening in your country, in this country, is, okay, have has the leadership of this country adequately won the respect, confidence, and cooperation of the people? You know, why are people coming out? Have the right things been done by the administration in order to win respect? So this is one way I might think about it if I were Kenyan. Another way I might think about it would be leadership is the art of influencing. And isn't it interesting that these people who have no authority, like it's not like a general of an army saying, okay, let's everybody go on the street. In a way, they exemplify exactly what I said to you about leadership, that each person has a leadership opportunity. So somehow these people, meaning the Gen Zers, influenced each other to do something in a very substantial way. I mean, this was not like, let's write a petition and then go home. You know, people are devoting a lot of their time. So in terms of a study of leadership, to me, that's very interesting. You know, how has this influence taken place? How is it a show of leadership among these people, and so on? And now here's the last thing I would say. The end of that definition is achieving common objectives. And so I think everybody involved also has to reflect and analyze what are the objectives at the end of the day that we're all trying to accomplish together. I mean, I understand very well the Gen Z group had some very specific short-term objectives like remove this tax increase and so on. But in the longer term, in the real longer term, not just remove this person, change this tax, what objective are we trying to achieve together? And the same thing for those who are in authority and who have power. I mean, obviously they want the protest to stop. That's a short-term objective. But as they think about their administration in this country, what do they want? What's the common objective they want to achieve on behalf of this country? So I don't pretend to answer any of these things. I'm not a Kenyan. I don't know the details well enough. But I think even the definition of that definition I shared of the word leadership maybe gives us a very interesting lens or microscope or ways of trying to dissect how do we all feel about what's happening now, what's going well, what's not going well. Anybody want to say anything? Do you want to say anything? Doesn't want to. Just let me be the one to talk about that difficult thing. He doesn't want to. Okay. Should I just read this? Okay. So here's another question. It seems currently Kenya is facing a leadership crisis with its youngsters, so there's a similar kind of question. How do you think the servant leadership principles can be applied to help the country move forward? So I didn't really use the word servant leadership in my talk, but you know what I said would coalesce with some of the core idea of what we call servant leadership. And let me explain what it is briefly, connect it to what I've said, and then apply it to this situation right now. So the idea of servant leadership is we often behave when we're managing as if the people on the team are serving us. In other words, I know what I want to accomplish, and so you please do that, you please do this, you please do this, so I can accomplish these goals. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that at all. It's very natural. The idea of servant leadership is a different mental model. We all have to achieve objectives together, but we might instead think that the manager is somehow serving the team, in the idea that my job as a manager is to help each person perform at their best so that we accomplish this common objective together. And you'll remember I used the idea of to be a loving leader, and the way I described that is very consistent with this school called servant leadership. So how is it at all relevant to what's going on right now in your country, or those of you who are Kenyans, And I guess I would say this, the idea of loving leadership, as I call it, the idea of servant leadership, puts first, it's not about me, it's about what is the purpose or mission beyond me. In this case, what's the good of the people of this country? What's the good of the country? And so when we get into these conflictual kinds of situations, on the one hand, Gen Zers, on the other hand, the president and administration of this country, there's a temptation for everybody to think about it in terms of winning. I want to win over that one because they're challenging me and attacking me. And one of the problems with that mental model is that it can distract us from keeping first in our mind, what are we ultimately trying to accomplish? What is the purpose greater than ourselves? What are we here for? And it's not just to win this battle, this argument today, rather it's to keep ourselves focused on what is the long-term good we're trying to achieve. And in these conflictual situations, I'm not involved in your situation, so I don't pretend to understand it well. I'm just saying generally, always in human conflictual situations, it can become a great risk that those involved start to lose track a little bit of the bigger purpose and start to focus a little bit on what is winning right now in this situation, and that sometimes doesn't lead to the ultimately best outcome.
Good. From this end, on the chat, we don't have. Sorry, I forgot to unmute myself. I was just saying that from this end and the chat, we don't have anything else. I don't know if someone else has any comment from Prime Bank or Pauline's collaborators.
Could I make one advertisement, sister? Okay. So for the sisters who have the chat, so if they sell books, I don't get any money, so it's not for me, huh? But for the ideas and for the sisters, if any of you are interested in purchasing the book, maybe the sisters could even put in the chat what is the name of their website so you could go there. And sister, maybe you could tell me what, obviously people can come to Pauline Communication Center in Westlands, is it? Or they also have a shop in the Basilica. See, the sisters are very shy. They will not do their own advertising. But I'm an American. We're very pushy people. So we are very happy to do this kind of thing. So they could come to the shop. Or also, if they go online, what do they Google? Like Pauline Communications or something?
www.paulinesafrica.org.
Okay, www.paulinesafrica.org. Okay.
Yes.
So I made a nice advertisement for sister.
Yes, and also we can find this book, Heroic Leadership, Best Practices from a 450 years old company that changed the world in Riverside, here in Pauline's Communication Center, Riverside, Kileleshwa, near the Prime Bank. We can have also the book in Gabriela House in Karen, that is near Jequat campus, Karen campus. We can have the book also in Holy Family Basilica, in Catholic Bookshop, near the Holy Family Basilica, OTUNGA Plaza. And we'll have also the book at the Cathedral of Kisumu, We have a new center there, Pauline's Communication Center, Pauline's Books and Media Center. And also you can order the book online, entering the website www.paulinesafrica.org, where we have also inside the shop a link of our e-commerce shop. So, dear friends, from wherever you are, you can get the book that you can purchase, and it can be shipped to you.
Sister, I think you have one or two questions or comments in the back.
Yes.
Mine is just a comment. Listening to what we have received today on leadership and looking at the situation we are living today in the continent of Africa, where we really can see that we are in a crisis of leadership. Many countries are rioting up and down because of dissatisfaction. So I'm asking if, Chris, you have any idea or a project to work with the church communities, and especially at the Episcopal levels, the Episcopal conferences in Africa, for instance, which could help to form better leaders or even to encourage the leadership that is exercised there. I'm also thinking about the associations of the religious men and women in every country, because that is another kind of an angle that we can look at, because they train the leaders. And as Father Odomaro has said about the upcoming university, that can be a very good focus to train the religious and the clergy on good leadership. Not that we are not practicing leadership, but really to help it be models, become models of a society that is growing today. And is growing amidst the challenges of the media, challenges of young people not having the capacity maybe to listen, and to listen deeply to what is being presented to them. So I'm asking whether there is any chance that could help you to work with the Episcopal conferences and the Association for the Religious. Thank you.
Okay, so thanks for that comment. And so I have three comments in response. So that's a beautiful comment. I have three thoughts in response. So one, so I think the way you framed it is absolutely perfect, because it was not like, okay, we have a crisis of leadership, let's all sit and point fingers and blame these guys that we're not happy about. Instead, it had what can we do? Here's what we can do. So there was a lot of agency in the way you teed up your question. Which I think is perfect. That's exactly the theme that I'm trying to share. So that's one thing. And second, I really appreciate that you framed it around yourselves, women religious, but also Episcopal, religious, because I think sometimes those who are in religious life tend to think about the idea of leadership as a little alien to who they are and what they do. Like we hear a word leadership and we think, oh, this is something like business people, politics, something like that. And as I think you understood very well from my comments, that I'm really trying to raise a very different notion that no, leadership is should be a very meaningful idea for all people, but certainly for those in religious life, for all the reasons that I shared and that you just echoed, Sister. You really have a powerful role in forming those who would be leaders. And then the last comment, your question was a practical one, and I guess what I would say is, I'm very open and happy to collaborate and work with any groups that want to delve into this topic. I think it's exactly what should be happening. I'm very happy to be part of the the discussion, part of the solution. People can find me, but also Father and the team of the proposed university. This is what they also hope that they could be intermediating. They can also help us to pull together these kinds of forums, these kinds of programs, these kinds of discussions. So it was a beautiful series of comments and questions that you raised.
Thank you very much to all of you. Now it is the time really to launch this book as we give Father Odomaro to honor us and honor Chris in this launching. So Father Odomaro and Sister Rosemary, our provincial superior, together with the author, they will launch officially this book.
We have to move, so also it will be online. Okay. No, you first. Once you cut the ribbon. I'll hold it. You want, I'll hold it.
With this ritual of cutting the ribbon, we declare the book Heroic Leadership launched at the Poland's Media and Communication Center. Thank you so much. Very good. Yeah, it is. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just to wrap up at this event, being a leader means to win respect, confidence, and loyal cooperation from your team. Means to be supportive, developing others, develop and share a collective mission, foster mutual respect, give praise, facilitate group collaboration, motivate and bring out the best in others, to recover positively from failures, to be role model of organizational values, and seek different perspectives. With this, we conclude this beautiful ceremony, thanking God that He has gathered us together, but as well thanking all those who took us out there, the Poland's communication media platforms, Capuchin TV that is here among us, as well as all the novices, Poland collaborators, and our good neighbors and friends of Prime Bank. We thank also to RCI Africa that have been here with us. Thank you, Jude, for coming here to cover this event. Thank you very much. So now, with the canticle of the means of communication, we conclude this beautiful ceremony. Thank you very much for your participation. I am Sister Olga Masango. Canticle of the means of social communication. Praise to you, Lord, for the instruments of social